Hello, I'm JJ Nisiobi, and this is Mad World. Welcome to 2024, the year that the world goes insane. 2 billion people go to vote, the US puts itself on the brink of another civil war, and we all watch it through our phones. This week, a president who struggles with press conferences tries to become a social media influencer. A congresswoman tells a former UK Prime Minister, "Kiss my ass," and the California city where crime has taken over. I'll be joined throughout the show to make sense of all of this by the comedian Steve N. Allen and the broadcaster and columnist Esther Kraku. Thanks for joining me both.
Thank you for having me.
Over to the US, where the Biden campaign has started a TikTok account, even though you're not allowed to use the platform on a government phone. The struggling president is trying to reignite his campaign using highly stage-managed viral videos.
Chiefs or Niners?
2 great quarterbacks, hard to decide. But if I didn't say I was for the Eagles, and I'd be sleeping alone. My wife's a Philly girl.
Game or commercials?
Game.
Game or halftime show?
Game.
Jason Kelsey or Travis Kelsey?
Mama Kelsey. I understand she makes great chocolate chip cookies.
Deviously plotting to rig the season so the Chiefs would make the Super Bowl, or the Chiefs just being a good football team?
I'd get in trouble if I told you.
Trump or Biden?
Are you kidding? Biden.
Ugh, cringe. One comment under this video says, 10 hours edited down to 26 seconds. In another video, Biden makes a half-hearted joke about his difficulties dealing with the press.
What are you giving up for Lent?
President Biden, do you have any comments?
No.
President Biden.
It's not the first time that Biden's long-suffering social media team have tried to make him into an online star. The Biden campaign have been trying to construct his Dark Brandon alter ego for some time now. The strange, laser-eyed Biden is his team's way to poke fun at deep state and QAnon conspiracy theories, such as the strange one that Taylor Swift is helping to keep him in the White House. It's a high-risk online strategy. Can a president who struggles to get through a press conference really handle this level of irony? And in a campaign where Trump is gunning hard on his popular opposition to China, is it really the best look for Biden to be cozying up to the CCP-dominated TikTok platform? It's been slammed for the blurred lines between millions of users and the Chinese government.
When it comes to TikTok, that it screams of national security concerns. Why?
The app's parent company is effectively beholden to the Chinese government, which could be used for all sorts of influence operations or to sow divisiveness, discord.
So, if government workers can't use TikTok, why can the president? Esther.
I mean, this begs the question of what phone are they using to even upload this content? Because I'm assuming it would be a government official uploading this content. It wouldn't just be a random person that doesn't work for the Biden administration. So supposedly they're probably using a government phone to upload this content. And obviously there's a question of if the Chinese government wouldn't even allow TikTok for its own people, why is it even allowed?
The US government doesn't allow
No. TikTok is banned in China.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. But the issue here is not China. The issue here is Biden saying
yes, because
that no one in the US...
You can't use it on government phones.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why they don't extend it to the whole population. TikTok is dumbing down entire generations of people. I mean, it beggars belief that you would use or endorse an app that's been banned by the people exporting it, except for the caveat that you recognize the national security interest of using it on government phones.
Well, Steve, you're a comedian. Is Biden doing a good job here so far?
Well, I mean, I use TikTok, so I'll have to keep my answer to about 4 seconds, otherwise I'll just...
I'll just miss it.
No, that's an embarrassing video. The question about which phone was used, you just need a burner phone. So if you've got someone in the family who's good with drugs, then you can find someone who's got the phone. So we've solved that one. But it's the
Where
biggest
would he find such a person?
Bizarre, isn't it? I don't know. Probably have to upload it on a laptop instead. No chance of getting your hands on that. But the point of the video is so embarrassing. He looks like he's had a relative set up his Wi-Fi for him because he's in that age group.
Yeah.
And it's clearly, I mean, yes, there are questions about the security, but this is just him trying to reach out to younger people. Previously, the way he did that was to sniff their hair. So it's a step in the right direction.
In a legal direction.
In a legal direction, right. But it's so embarrassing. And the bit where they ask him Trump or Biden, and he says, "Are you kidding me?" and pauses. I honestly wouldn't have put money on him knowing which one he was out of this.
That is very true.
Honestly.
He wants to appeal to a younger audience, but I say we, like I'm the voice of young people, I'm not.
You're definitely not.
But they can see through the fakeness, right? He's not coming across like, oh, actually, he's cool and hip. He's just do a video that is just normal, like unboxing with Biden. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, look at these new trainers I bought or whatever.
Exactly.
Do something normal, right?
Sniff a package. The thing is, he is a meme. So I don't think he understands his online persona enough to even try this strategy. He is basically a meme online. So you're trying to appeal to the people that constantly make you the subject of ridicule, which I don't understand at all. Because what do you think you're going to achieve here? If their whole job is to mock you. And for him, I think that one of the clips where he said his wife is a Philly girl. And I was like, so
yes, she's from Philadelphia.
She's way past girl, okay?
Oh,
she's a Philly,
Esther.
she's a Philly grandmother or something. I mean, let's be serious. Look, I actually can't believe we're even having a serious conversation about this man's campaign.
Why can't you believe it?
Because he can't make coherent sentences. He can barely walk upstairs. He doesn't know. He's constantly lost and dazed. I really don't understand why the Democrats are pushing this man and then are somehow shocked that Trump is rising in the polls. He happens to be the only candidate that's alive.
Yeah, there's that bit where he said, "What are you giving up for Lent?" And we all thought, life?
Too late.
But that's because the slim pickings are so bad. This is why, like, yes, he's old and he seems like he can't finish a sentence, but Trump only does like a few more words in the sentence. There's not enough youth happening in American politics. Like, one of them can't walk upstairs, the other can't walk down a ramp. They're very similar on some ways, I suppose. But the one thing that Biden does is make us forget that Trump can't finish a sentence. So if anything, he might be some sort of false flag stooge for the
Trump is more energetic because he rants. He's like the ranty old man at at family dinner. So you forget that actually he's also really getting on in age and he's probably a little bit senile himself. That's the difference. I mean, Biden's lack of energy.
Quite a leap, Esther.
No, but seriously,
to suddenly diagnose him. It's probably a bit senile.
But Biden's lack of energy makes Trump look exceptionally competent. But actually, this is a man, if you look at the way he, not tweets, on the different platform, that's not Twitter, but that he basically treats as Twitter, he's just... he's just constantly ranting. Like, the lack of self-awareness is actually quite staggering if you take it in isolation. But when you compare it to Biden, he looks pretty good.
But Trump's followers love that. They love his rants. They think he's the Messiah. He's leading them to a new dawn.
I think the sane faction of Trump's followers, which I'm not necessarily posing as the majority, have just accepted that this is what it is. And they're like, okay, if this is the only bulwark to like having millions of migrants flooding our southern border and basically legalizing all sorts of rubbish in this country, we'll take it.
How did we get to this point? With Obama, I remember seeing videos of him picking up a basketball and just shooting threes and then walking out the horn and being like, hey, like the Fonz. Even George Bush could get down and do push-ups with the Marines.
Yeah.
And now we've got these two geriatrics, these two old men who, neither of them seem quite competent enough to be having their finger over the nuclear button.
Well,
they need to do something about it swiftly. The Democrats could. They could try and say, look, Biden's decided not to run. Have a word with him. If you have a conversation with him, you could convince him that he could dress up as a doctor and he'd believe what you say, which is what his wife does. But just get someone else and get at the conference. Just get some younger blood, because then the argument becomes about competence rather than look what Biden's done, look what Biden will do. The general narrative is everything's worse under Biden, which statistically can't be true, but there might be some problems. But you get some fresh blood in, you'd make it an exciting election, which is probably not what either one of them want. They're grateful that it's two old men fighting in a car park.
The thing is, we constantly ask, how did this happen? How do we have these two geriatric candidates in a country with over 330 million people? But actually, it's interesting because the party mechanisms have failed in spectacularly different ways. So the Democrats, effectively, their party system in terms of how they select candidates is like a kingmaker. So you could have, grassroots Democrats that want like a Bernie Sanders, but actually, if the powers that be say we want a Biden, they can rig the elections to get Biden as their candidate. And then on the Trump side, which is like the first past the post, or the Republican side, which is the first past the post system, actually you just need to secure enough of the base to effectively ride roughshod over everyone else. So there are two party mechanisms that are not fit for purpose, but have effectively got the worst of both worlds. And now we're stuck with a man who's not alive and a man who's mad.
So you've basically said that Donald Trump is senile and that the elections are rigged. You, my friend, have lost it.
It is a mad world.
Lost it, all successful on social media. That's exactly what you need.
Exactly.
Over to Washington, D.C. now, where it's Britain versus America, as the firebrand Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene lashes out at the UK Foreign Secretary, Sir David Cameron.
Well, he likened you to an appeaser to Hitler in not voting through funding for Ukraine. Are you an appeaser for Putin?
I think that I really don't care what David Cameron has to say. I think that's rude name-calling, and I don't appreciate that type of language. And David Cameron needs to worry about his own country, and frankly, he can kiss my ass.
This disturbing mental image was in response to Cameron's calls for US Republicans to support further aid to Ukraine. He said in an interview with The Hill, "I do not want us to show the weakness displayed against Hitler in the 1930s. offensive. Cameron, who was once UK Prime Minister, has been on an international tour to drum up support for Ukraine.
They will be watching in China. They will be watching in Iran. And every country around the world will be watching to say, are we, these Western countries, are we reliable allies? When we say we're going to back you, when we say your right to resist aggression, when we say your right to defend your country.
Marjorie Taylor Greene posted on X, formerly Twitter, David Cameron should be concerned about the Nazis in Ukraine's army, the Azov Battalion. We're all sick of the absurd name-calling. It isn't going to bully me into funding the war in Ukraine. It's a bit of a 180 for the Congresswoman, who just last year said that she doesn't mind name-calling.
We looked up some words that have been said about you.
Okay.
Crazy, Q-clown, Looney Tune, unhinged, moron. Pretty ugly stuff.
Looks like the average troll in my Twitter feed, so I don't really care.
You're used to it.
So I don't let name calling bother me or offend me. I just don't.
This is not the first time that Marjorie Taylor Greene has caused trouble. Here she is, interrupting Biden at the 2023 State of the Union address.
Anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you.
So it's a bit of a dilemma for Republicans who have to risk defying Trump loyalists if they want to be seen as tough on Russia. She looks like an extra from Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Honestly.
You know, in the fur, the leather and stuff. I don't understand why she was so offended.
Did you ever watch Boondocks?
Yeah.
She looks like a pimp named Slipback's wife.
Okay, well, I know what you mean, but I'm sure our viewers have no idea.
She looks like a pimp's, pimp's wife.
Fine.
I mean, that was...
Why was she so angry? Cameron, Lord Cameron is literally saying, bit more money to Ukraine to try and stop Putin. And she's like, kiss my ass.
Well, it's the modern world of trying to find out how you've just been victimised. And she's acting like she's just been called a Nazi. She's just been called Neville Chamberlain, which actually, I don't know if that's worse, really, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah.
But the irony of saying it's just name-calling, where it should be above this, and you can kiss my ass. You just done the thing.
Yeah.
You say they're like, plus, she used to run a gym company or something, so I'm not sure an invitation to kiss her ass is that much of a punishment. There are worse bottoms, is what I'm saying.
There are definitely worse bottoms.
I mean, the thing is, she is a caricature of basically what a politician should be. I know there are cultural differences because we're talking about this. This kind of woman could never be in British politics because we actually see this sort of behaviour and these outbursts as too immature and too crass to be a public servant. But in the US, it's seen as some sort of, you're showing grit and spirit and all of that. Fine, I'm not going to tell them how to select their politicians. And while I do have a lot of reservations about Ukraine and the funding, and I think this is something that should have been wrapped up last year, I think it's valid to ask the question, how long are we supposed to keep funding this for? How long? These countries are allegedly in debt. We have our own problems, infrastructure is falling apart, homelessness and all of that, but we somehow have $60 billion to send to Ukraine. I think that's a valid point. But it's unfortunate that these valid points are being lost or being trying to be made by people like that who take the conversation into an unhelpful realm. I don't understand why she should ask Lord Cameron to kiss her ass. I mean, I don't think there's much ass there for him to kiss anyway. But, it distracts from the actual conversation because it makes people that have legitimate concerns look like children, right? If you're going to make the case that actually, I don't want to fund this Ukrainian war, or I don't think that the taxpayers' money should be tied to the Israeli war in Gaza or Ukraine or whatever, you should find mature people, better mascots to make that case as opposed to these childish outbursts.
Can you imagine Rees-Mogg saying to Corbyn, kiss my ass?
It'd be in Latin, or it takes off. I cordially invite you, if you would be so kind as to place your lips upon my... Come on, mate, we've all got stuff to do. But I think an amazing point about how the question should be allowed to be asked.
Yeah, of course.
On both sides. You should be able to ask, what about more funding, or why are we still funding it, without the person who hears the question being offended at the presence of the question. How dare you say that? You've called me a Nazi. We should never speak again. No, questions lead to debate, and then you get somewhere.
On the Ukraine point, I've always made the point that they should have been wrapped up last year. the reason for that is because when you go into an election year, the motivations for stopping it or for negotiating it are all based on an electoral outcome. So actually, you end up getting the worst deal possible for both sides. So for instance, if Putin thinks that Trump is going to win, he's probably going to try and negotiate a better deal on his side and all of that. There's the incentives to actually make a long-lasting, peaceful negotiation are diminished in an election year. I don't have a problem saying, actually, we don't want to encourage Putin to invade other parts of Europe. There should have been a bulwark. Actually, there should have been something done after he invaded Crimea in 2014, but that's long and gone. But now we're actually saying, when is this going to, time's up, okay? Like, inflation is through the roof. We have real legitimate problems. Can we actually use our money for our citizens? And then you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene reducing the conversation to kiss my ass.
Yeah, but there are legitimate concerns from some quarters that there are Nazis.
Oh, of course,
in the Ukrainian forces.
I mean, look.
And it seems you're not really allowed to say that kind of thing publicly.
Look, even on the point of corruption in Ukraine, which for some reason, again, as a no-no talking about in the mainstream media, Russia was deemed the most corrupt country in Europe for decades, right? You know the second most corrupt country? Ukraine. So to pretend or to try and whitewash the image of Ukraine and its politicians and stuff like that is a losing battle, and it's a reason why people don't have faith, because if you're going to make the case to us that we have to keep funding this, let's lay all our cards on the table. Let's be honest. Let's ask Zelensky and his military officials where all of this money is going, right? And I think all these important things are being lost when people like her take center stage.
But you're presuming that people want nuance, let alone can handle nuance. And I think, well, or at least the mediums in which we give information out, social media, even the TV, nuance isn't the thing that makes it money. It's not the cash cow, is it? Get rid of the nuance, boil it down to good, bad, and then you can sell some stuff.
I think we at least have the responsibility or the duty to try and present a nuanced argument. That's the issue. We know that there are certain characters in media that always take up the oxygen in the room. Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, people that say bombastic, inflammatory things. But at the end of the day, it still boils down to our hard-earned money is going towards this. Can we at least have space where we can talk about it, where the adults are in charge and we don't have to encourage this sort of behaviour? I
saw some criticisms about Zelensky online as well. The fact that he always wears army fatigues, but he's not actually going onto the front line. He's sat in an office. He could be wearing a suit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Although members of All Saints did that as well. So let's not be too harsh.
That's true.
Let's be
That's a good point. That is a good point. Also, he did the photo shoot for Vogue magazine.
Yeah.
He then turns up the Grammys on the TV screen to ask for more.
I mean, I thought that
support.
for me, that was extra cringy, because I think even the way we no longer hold celebrities in high, I can't even believe at some point we did, but we no longer hold celebrities in the kind of high esteem that we used to, mainly because social media culture has changed the nature of the celebrity. So for you to go to the Grammys thinking, oh, if we get the Beyoncés and the Jay-Z's to appeal for our cause, excuse me, Beyonce and Jay-Z are not living on minimum wage. They don't have the same problems that the average American does. I actually would like to see fewer celebrities in politics, just because they don't have the same problems that we do. If I vote for someone based on who Rihanna or Katy Perry tell me, I'm not going to go back to them and be like, hey, can you spare me a few millions, because the politicians that I voted for are screwing me over.
Over to California now, more specifically Oakland, just over the bridge from San Francisco. Oakland is home to this clip, which has been doing the rounds of a teenager stealing 49 iPhones from an Apple store worth a total of $49,230. In the clip, the thief passes 2 police cars and no one intercepts him. Elsewhere in Oakland, the restaurant has been hit by so many robberies, they're considering shutting down.
Employees at Cybell's Pizza along Fruitvale Avenue in Oakland's Diamond District have resorted to defending themselves after the most recent robbery Friday.
They went into my shop yesterday around 10:30 p.m. They tried to steal the register. Another of my 2 employees, he grabbed the hammer and he threw it to his foot so they can't leave. He came into the shop again and they were trying to catch them. They were very, very brave.
Owner Elizabeth Sanchez says this is just one of 4 break-in robberies at their Oakland location this year.
Gavin Newsom, the California governor, signed a law in 2021 that de facto legalized looting, at least up to the value of $950. In fact, earlier this month, Newsom got on the wrong side of an employee at a Target store. He's attracted humiliation online for this interview.
As we're checking out, the woman says, oh, he's just walking out. He didn't pay for that. I said, well, why aren't you stopping him? She goes, oh, the governor lowered the threshold. There's no accountability. I said, that's just not true. We're having a conversation. Where's your manager? How are you blaming the governor?
Governor Newsom, oblivious?
I think he's amazing. I think we found 3 words to best describe him. Where's the manager? America needed a name for a male Karen, and it's Gavin. Gavin is such a great name for a male Karen.
This is just one city, but it does tell a broader story about urban America, where criminals can be so brazen about committing crimes that they can commit quite literal daylight robbery. Guys, I mean, yeah, this is Oakland, but I see this in London. I see this here in the UK too.
Yeah, I mean, when you effectively decriminalize something based on the value of how much you've taken, you give these criminals a reason to do it. I mean, I think people are not looking at kind of the wider societal implications of this. If you expect the rest of us to be law-abiding citizens, but people can go around looting stores and looting restaurants and all of that and get away with it, at some point, people are going to say, actually, if they don't have to follow the rules, neither will I. And it's when that switch that switch flips, that's when you have real anarchy. Because people are going to say, why do I have to pay for parking fines? And why do I have to, follow the rules? And why do I have to, in a case like the US, why do I have to conceal and carry, not carry my gun or whatever? These are the fundamental questions that nobody is considering. Yes, okay, don't encourage this sort of antisocial behavior, but actually it's a lot deeper than that, which is the rest of us, for some reason, have to be law-abiding citizens, but these thugs don't. And I think that's what people don't understand.
Yeah, I've been in shops where people have shoplifted, and the most annoying thing is I'm stood in a queue to pay. And they're already out the door by the time. And when I eventually get there, the upper limit on contactless payment, 100 quid. The upper limit of what you'll be arrested for is 200 quid. How can you get more in your basket if you're shoplifting than if you try and pay on a card? It's ridiculous. Yeah. And to see that clip of all the iPhones going, I don't know what the solution is, because if the police aren't going to do it, you can't actually expect cashiers to do it. No. Unless the job of cashier then has to include like being RoboCop and have to track these people down. Yeah. So you need the police to do it. If they're not going to do it, my suggestion would be exploding iPhones. If like 1 in every 500 exploded, you wouldn't nick so many. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then if the police aren't going to do anything about shoplifting, they shouldn't do anything about exploding iPhones and take off an arm.
It's not shoplifting, because they're doing it. They're not even trying to hide it. They're literally picking it up and walking out of the store. They're not trying to conceal it.
That is by definition shoplifting.
No, it's just theft. It's just shoplifting. Because the thing is, it's just flat out theft, right? Shoplifters at least try and conceal what they're stealing. Yeah. No, seriously, because you
but Esther, the legal definition, that is literally shoplifting.
Okay, fine, yes, but I mean, for me, it's just it's a 5-finger discount, really. I wouldn't be generous to say that it's shoplifting.
Okay, but look at Apple is $1 billion company. They could afford to have ex-Marines guarding their stores. If they had proper big old guys stood in there, this wouldn't be happening.
Well, but the thing is, they're paying taxes and expecting the state to protect them. I mean, we have a tacit agreement. That's why we pay taxes. That's why we live as law-abiding citizens.
Then why do you have locks on doors then? When it gets to night time, 8 p.m, they lock the door, they put the alarm on. Why do that? If it's all about the police, and that's all it should be. The police are supposed to guard everything. But that's not the police's job.
If that's the case,
the police are called to respond. The police are not there to stand outside all the shops.
Okay, then let's go further. If I don't need the police at all, if you have because the thing is, if you have if the mechanisms you choose to have in place to prevent this sort of behaviour actually negates the necessity of a policeman, okay, fine. I get to carry around an AK-47 and I get to defend my property in the way that I see fit. Because
if you go to Cartier, you go to any of those Tiffany's & Co, they have security guards, the doors are locked. You go to the jewellery quarter, it has to be buzzed in and buzzed out.
Why that's an issue?
They have that in place because the things they have there are of such value that they have the best and most extreme security.
Do you know why that's an issue? There's 2 reasons why that's an issue. Firstly, when Apple is looking to cut staff, they're not going to be looking at the security men that they're trying to cut. They're going to be looking at the cleaners or the people that are
but what I'm saying. Apple don't need to.
It would affect. It will, because it'll still affect their bottom line. They still have to pay for security. And also, you're not talking about the smaller shops. The shop that we saw there wasn't just an Apple shop. We saw a lady who owns a restaurant, just like a corner shop here in London.
Yeah, and that
can't afford security. So what are these small shop owners supposed to do?
I'm not talking about the small shops.
It's okay if it's not a small shop.
The fact is, that small shop, they probably can't afford to have.
So what are they supposed to do?
What she's doing now, she's fighting for her livelihood. She's throwing hammers.
That's ridiculous.
But the Apple store, they are making billions. So you're saying, well, they've got to keep their bottom line. They're not struggling. They can afford to spend another £1 million a year on security staff.
But the answer is the tax. The first presumption would be if you make billions, you pay a lot in tax. So they would be paying more in tax than the small shop. Yeah, the small shop can't afford to actually man their own security, so they pay taxes and want the police. Well, the big companies shouldn't be finding ways to pay about £3.50 in tax, because then they'd contribute to society, you'd have a better police force. That's where the problem comes.
But also, there's also the issue of you're encouraging a certain kind of violence. Like I often say, you can go and nick stuff from a Harrods and whatever, and most people will say, oh, but it's Harrods, they're fine. You go and nick stuff from a corner shop in Tottenham, and you have Mahmoud and the Mandem following you and beating you up. You're going to actually start seeing greater levels of inner city violence, because actually, if you're saying, okay, you have to take the law into your own hands, or this is not an issue that's big enough for the police, you will start seeing a bunch of toothless thugs in these streets because they're going to be knocking on the wrong door at the wrong time.
And
that's what's going to happen.
Still unfair for Apple, which I believe employ geniuses who tend to be nerds. They wouldn't fight. You can't fight the way out of a paper bag. Don't make them do it. No.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, the only way to deal with this is to actually police it, to enforce the law, and also to change the culture. And it's a twofold thing. How do you change the culture when, actually calling these people thugs and criminals is seen as racist or whatever?
Okay, but this is what I'm asking you. How can the police, whose job is to police a whole city area, how are they supposed to just go and park outside a shop and then say, we're going to stand inside the Apple store in case someone comes in to try and steal all the phones? What about every other shop? It's not the police's job to be security guards. Their job is to be called and to respond.
So how else would you enforce the law?
You enforce the law by when this guy's robbed the shop, then Apple call the police.
That's the mechanism
that's how the police work.
But that's the mechanism with which we enforce the law. Because the thing is, security guards also have their legal restrictions on them. So there are many security guards here in the UK that say we don't actually bother stopping or trying to restrain someone from shoplifting because we could actually get sued. The way that you enforce the law is through police. That's externalized violence of the state. That's the power that we entrust with them. If you're saying actually the police can't stop by in case someone shoplifts or whatever, then there's no point in having a police. That's your job. Your job is to enforce the law.
Listen to what I'm saying. When a crime happens, you call the police. The police's job is not to stand in a shop or in a busy area and say, okay, I'm here. If anyone wants anything, I'll be here. No, the police enforce the law.
Yeah, there is. Because that's why with knife crime in London, we're saying, where are the bobbies on the beat? Because actually police presence is a deterrent.
That's completely different. That's completely different to standing in a shop. Because that's about an area. That's not about standing in one shop.
So being...
No, you've lost your argument, Esther.
I think it's germane to say in that clip, if you watch it again, he runs past a police car. There was one parked outside. So sometimes that randomly happens. But also you follow up on crimes. I mean, we live in a world where you can get some high-def CCTV where all filmed from every unflattering to bald men angles all the time. You get that footage of someone who's just nicked some iPhones and sent, they'll do nothing. Yeah. So if the police aren't going to follow up on crimes either, if they nick stuff that's less than 200 quid, then they're not doing their job. So even if they don't have to be at the shop ready to catch you, they won't follow up on the crime anyway. So
well, you know what, Steve and Esther? You're both wrong. Let's leave it there. That's all from us on Mad World this week. Thanks, Steve and Esther, and thank you for watching. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.